is going to take in one parameter. And that will be a list. Now the list is going to be ultimately where we're outputting the template to, and it's going to be this thing up here, this UL, if I can eventually reach it, right here. So that is the list that we're outputting chats to, and we're storing that on a property inside the class, because when we come to render a template to the DOM, then we have on that instance a reference to the list we want to render it to. So when we create an instance of this chat UI later, we're going to pass in that element as a parameter. So inside here we'll say this .list is equal to the list. And in fact what we'll do is we'll just create this instance now. So I'm going to go to app.js, and at the top I'm going to do another comment, and that is going to be DOM queries. So all of our DOM queries we'll do at the top, and I'll say const chat list is equal to document dot query selector and we want the chat list like so. So this is going to go and get us, oops, we need to call this const and not chat, right? And this is going to go and get us this thing over here. So now we have a reference to that, and we could, if we wanted to, now create a new chat UI instance by saying const chat UI is equal to a new chat UI, and we pass in the list as an argument right here. So let's grab that and paste it in, and therefore when we create this instance, it's going to take this value, this UL tag, and over in UI it's going to pass that in, and we're setting this .list equal to that element on the page. So now we have a reference to that, and we can use it inside this class when we try to output data. So then the next thing I want to do is create a render method. And this render method is going to be responsible for creating an HTML snippet or template for each document, each chat document we get back, and rendering that to the DOM. So ultimately we're going to be taking in a data property over here, and that data is going to be a single chat object. So over in chat.js, when we say get chats and when we say on snapshot, we're setting up a real-time listener and we're getting changes back. For every added change, we're calling this function and passing in the data of that change, so that single object. And we're doing this for each change. Now this callback at the minute is over here, right here. This is the callback that's firing. So later we're going to take this data right here and we're actually going to call this method render and pass in that data, which is a single chat object. And this render method is going to get called for each new chat that we get. And its job is to generate a bit of HTML template, inject the data to it, and output that to the DOM. So let's give this a whirl. First of all, we're going to say const HTML is equal to a template string. This is going to be the template we output. And inside there, we want, first of all, an li tag. So we'll say li, and this will have a class, which is going to be a bootstrap class, and it's going to be list-group-item. Then we'll close the li at the bottom over here. And then inside the li, we need a few different things. We want the username, we want the message, and also the time. So first of all, we'll do a span tag, and this is going to have a class of username. And we'll output the username first of all. Close the span tag off, and inside we need our $, curly braces, because we're outputting a variable, and we want the data dot username, because remember, this is a single chat object, and a single chat object has a username property on it. The next thing we want to output is the message. So let's do that span with a class equal to, this time, message. And inside that span, we want to output another variable, and it's going to be data.message, because that is the name of the message property on our chat objects. Close off that span. And then finally, we'll do a div so that this goes on a new line, because divs are block level elements. And this div will have a class, this time, of time. And inside that, we want to output the date or the time. But before we do that, let me close off the div. Now remember, this is going to be a timestamp object. So we'll say data.createdAt. That's the timestamp object. We can convert it to a date. by using the toDate method. Okay, so now we're generating this HTML template for each item we take in. So what we could do now is we could say down here, this .list, which is the containing element where we want to output this HTML, and we say plus equals to the HTML. So now for every new chat document we get and we pass in here, we're generating this template and we're adding that to the HTML. We're not replacing the whole HTML, we're just adding to it. And also we need the .inner HTML method to do that. So now if I save this, nothing's going to happen because we're not calling this method anywhere, and in fact I can see an error over here. Okay, the error's gone now, but what we need to do now is call this method over here in app.js right about here once we have new chats. So instead of now logging this to the console, I'm going to instead say chat UI, which is our chat UI instance right here, then use the method render, and we're going to pass in the data we get back, which is a single object. Remember, every time we get a change that's added, we fire the callback and pass back that single object. So we're getting a single chat object back every time, firing this function and then firing the render method on the chat UI. That is then taking in that individual item. It's creating a template for it and outputting it to the DOM inside the list right here, which is this thing, the UL. So let's save this and give it a whirl. I'm going to save it and come over here, and now you can see, we get this kind of template. So it's going out and it's getting these chats and calling the render method for each one of them. And remember, these are just the chats in the general chat room because we specified general right here. So we're only listening to documents where the room is general. So this all works now, which is awesome. Now there's one more thing I want to do, and that's just to neaten this bit up here. So because there's one parameter, we can delete the parentheses, and also we can just move this up to one line, like so, and this is still going to work. Okay, cool. So now we're kind of gluing our two different class instances together. First of all, we make a chat room instance and set that up with this room and this author. Then we go and get the chats based on this room. So we're listening for changes to those. They come back and fire this callback function for every chat we get. And we pass in that individual chat, which we call data, into the render method of this chat UI class. So over here in UI, we can see call that render method, pass in the data, which is the single chat. We make this template and then we add it to the DOM right here to this list. So the next step now is to hook up our new message form down here so that when we add something to it, then click send, it's going to add that chat to the database collection, and therefore we're going to listen to that change over here because we set up a listener and we're going to get that document back. Therefore, we're going to fire this callback function and we're going to render that then to the DOM. So we need to now figure out a way to listen for the submit event over here and save that document to the database. But before we do that, I just want to take a moment to address these things right here because currently they don't look very nice. So remember that package we used a while back called datefns, and that helps us to format dates. We're going to be using that in the next video to make this look a bit nicer. Alright then. So in this video, I'm going to create the HTML template for the chat room, and there's going to be several, everything into the center list or the chat window, and this Alright, so now we have our chat room class pretty much complete, and when we get all the chat room kind of template property over here, we're going to take this data right here and we're actually going to copy all. Job is to over here a class we want that we want, and we pass dot in an error over here. Okay, method. To do that, what we need to do now, console, I'm going to instead later we get back chat of template for it, and now you can see we are inside and then firing the so what list is that is going to be DOM collector, the chat list, like so. So this is going to go and get us, oops, we need to call this constant, not chat, right? And this is going to go and get us this thing over here. So now we have a reference to that, a new, it's going to take